Okay, we're going to start off in what may be a usual thing. We'll see how it works out, but I think it'll work out well. Mike Closer, big on social media, Periscope, etc. The Best Closer, at The Best Closer on Twitter, is going to catch us up on the news since last Thursday, and I'll interject whenever it is. I just like talking to him. So, Mike, what's up?
I appreciate it. Interject, intercede, however you need to. Thanks for having me on. Lots of news, really. Most of the news you don't hear very much, but why not? Let's talk about it. Most people don't know that President Trump already filed for the 2020 election 3 days after he took the presidency. And by the way, Adam, they raised $10 million in one night. The Republicans raised $10 million in one night. Have you heard that in a while?
No, it hasn't been election season for 6 months at least. But no.
That's right. Well, guess what? 2018 is around the corner, and President Trump's already putting his gold touch on fundraising, which is nice to see. I know you don't hear that often. And the main thing in the news has been his tweet. And as he said, it's modern-day presidential to communicate this way. And if you look back throughout all of time, people used to have court jesters, people used to have newspapers, and people would post posters. Well, now we have Twitter. And President Trump mastered the art of Twitter at the young age, I believe, of 72.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's over half the amount of characters allowed. You know, that's over half the number. Actually, no, he's only 70. Is he 70? He's only 70, isn't he?
70.
And he probably mastered it when he was 69 or 68.
There you go. So congratulations to that. I'm actually proud of the communications. Number one, it bypasses the press. Number two, it's unfiltered. And that's what we all want, because that's how you and I speak, Adam. I don't need the over-talking. I don't need people shouting out large words. Let's keep it down to what it is today so everyone can communicate, and I do enjoy it very much.
I thought honestly, I thought the wrestling thing was a little bit, I know they just like to say unpresidential after they start making their things, and then they complain. I mean, but just between us, just among friends, I mean, come on. I mean, I think pro wrestling is pretty stupid to begin with, and so that is my bias. But
I guess it's like fake news, fake news, fake wrestling, so to speak. But at the same time, the people protesting it are the ones that fund the play going on that promotes the killing of President Trump.
Yes. I'm not doubting that. I mean, they deserve it. I'm just saying, like, me as a Trump fan I rolled my eyes ever so slightly. That's all I'm saying.
So I guess my take on all this is that we have to turn it up a notch. He's been on defense for how long now? And now it's time to see an offensive game like New England Patriots bring us, like some of the sports teams.
Wait. New England Patriots are a complete team. They really do it on all levels. Yes, their offense is great under Brady, but I think they were number one or number two in the league in defense last year. So, ironically, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are typically a defensive team, would be a better example than the New England Patriots, or the Atlanta Falcons, actually.
That sounds close to a hometown example, but that's okay.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Pittsburgh? Guess what? I got news for you. There are a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans in Philly, as there are everywhere. But I actually looked at this one time, and it's probably true from where I'm from, which is a little bit south of Philadelphia. But Foxborough, Massachusetts is actually closer, even if you drive it, certainly as the crow flies, because you can't drive in a direct line over the water, which is what it would be from Philadelphia to Boston, closer to Foxborough than it is to Pittsburgh. So
how about that?
Interesting. Eagles are close to a lot of teams. You got a lot of teams. You got like 4 teams within 2 hours and a half out. 5 teams if you include the Eagles within 2 hours and 30 minutes. Redskins, Jets, Giants, and Ravens, and then you make it 5 hours. You can get to Foxborough or Philadelphia. Probably Buffalo's not even that much more than that. Also.
Well, at least I heard my team mentioned in there, so I'm feeling pretty good. I heard the Redskins in there.
In the news, you caught that, right?
Yes. Are you talking about the logo?
Yes. Why don't you mention that, then I'll let you go back on track here.
Sure. No problem at all. The Redskins actually, as you know, have been fighting a battle regarding the trademark rights of using their team logo, and it looks like they're going to continue to be able to use that. And all of the Indian chiefs or the Native American chiefs that attended the meeting supported the use of the logo and the likeness and had approved the color of the face as well. So they were involved in the creation of the updated logo as well.
And the Redskin on there, between us, is kind of badass. I mean, like, what's their not? I mean, if they had a Jew who had that expression on their face and looked like a total warrior like that one does, I mean, the Cleveland Indians one may be another story, but that's not even controversial. And my understanding is that the Redskins logo, well, they were keeping it anyway. They're just not going to have to deal with any more
Correct.
legal harassment
Correct.
courtesy of taxpayers anymore under the Trump administration. That's my understanding.
Absolutely. Great to hear. That's great to hear. It's, I guess, a win for all when it comes to things like that. About time that we're not in court talking about things like this. And
that said,
I don't know if you're, yeah.
Based on the off season, I don't think we're going to have to worry about the logo one way or the other in the postseason next year. It doesn't look like they've done anything to
probably not this year, but I know. Listen. If we get to 8-8, that's a successful season in my division, in our division. So you know how it is. Have you ever heard of Tommy Robinson? Does that name ring a bell?
But not enough people have. I know him well, but our audience should know him. He's a real hero, in my opinion.
Me too. I've known him a long time. We communicate quite a bit. In fact, I was on Skype with him when he was arrested last time, and he fights the good fight, and he needs everyone's support. So if you don't know who T. Robinson...
Give background, though. You got to give background for people who don't know him.
For years, Tommy Robinson grew up in a small town. I believe it's called Luton, England, and that town grew up. He grew up amongst a Muslim majority. And as he is grown up to be, he's a young adult with kids and a wife and all that now, he continues to fight the good fight for all what's right in his country. And he battles unbelievably. He's been arrested for observing, filming. Last week, they came up to him at his car and tried to actually start a fight with him, all for representing what he believes are, the laws in his nation. And he needs everyone's help. So if you haven't heard of him, look him up. T. Robinson, New Era. He wrote a book called Enemy of the State, and just someone that fights the way we've been fighting for with and for President Trump.
Well, not the way I've been fighting. He's been a lot bolder than I am. He actually takes on Islam, and he was harassed in jail for that reason, and the deep state over there probably arranged it so that he would get a lot of harassment. So
absolutely
interesting.
Yes, they did. So I brought him up just to say, please support him if you haven't heard of him. And on that similar note, we're doing.
And how do they follow him on Twitter? What's his Twitter handle again?
It's T. Robinson New Era. All one word. T. Robinson New Era.
Gotcha.
He is verified as well. You could easily find him and look up his book, Enemy of the State. You probably heard President Trump sent in 20 ATF people and investigators and a few U.S. attorneys to visit Chicago and take over where Rahm Emanuel has failed. You probably saw the numbers this weekend.
I did.
They were high in terms of crimes.
Well, they always are over July 4th weekend for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Always. Yeah, I'm just glad that attention was finally given. Now, I know that Barack Obama didn't give attention to it. I understand why. Probably he shied away from it, but making a difference there in the numbers of murders, not just fatalities and high crimes, is going to be a big difference to the people who live there. So I'm glad to see that.
What does he actually plan to do? I mean, that sounds good and all, and again, I'm playing devil's advocate here, but it's mostly black people killing other black people, if I'm not mistaken, usually getting gang-related. What can he do if someone has a hit on them, which is, and, I do like to point out, with crime statistics, we talk about Chicago being such a dangerous place, but the reality is most people are killed by people who know each other, and Chicago's a little more segregated than other cities, so your likelihood of being in the wrong place at the wrong time is probably a little lower if you're not in one of the ghettos, because just for whatever reason, people keep separate, from the bad areas a little bit more there. But
sure.
I mean, what does that mean? What can he do? He could solve the crimes, I don't know, get people to talk more, but if you're going to put a hit on someone and it's drug-related, what can the federal government really do? And do we even want a federal government that strong?
One, you can't do a heck of a lot more than what you just said. So that's why he hired Omarosa. So what she did before the election is she spent time. Yeah. Omarosa took the time to go to all the African-American churches on the East Coast and Midwest and got thousands of new votes because of it, but got all the pastors and fathers involved and agreeing that all of this, what you just said, begins in the home. And a lot of us deal with single-family households, let alone there's no one home when a middle schooler comes home to do their homework and all the above, and they have very few alternatives of where to go and what to do. Now, Ben Carson would tell you that it's a choice you make because he's in charge of HUD, as you know, and these are unique choices. I mean, look how he grew up and look what he became. But that is one in, I don't even know the number, Adam, but it's probably one in multiple thousands that happens to. But it begins in the home.
That's That's true, but Omarosa's pretty exceptional. I know she was cast as a villain early on in The Apprentice, but she was doing beauty pageants when she was young. I mean, it's not like Omarosa or Ben Carson, there was ever much risk that they'd be killing people. You know, you just hope that these people get a minimum wage job at the very most and, just act minimally responsibly and don't kill people as opposed to become huge successes. So, I mean, look, it's not my area of expertise, but we're talking about two different things, I would think, with that. I mean, look, anyone can help, but I don't know what that means.
But, I mean, the alternative is selling something for a big profit or working a minimum wage job and barely getting by, but you make a heck of a lot more on welfare. And the welfare state has grown to over 98 million people somehow using the government to live. And that's not what our country was meant to be. We're here to support maybe 20 to 23 million, and that's about the number we can deal with fiscally and still balance the budget. So that's where we've gone wrong, and it's become a way of life versus the 33 weeks it was meant for after the Great Depression. Things have changed, and we let them get out of hand. I think we could stop things like that, Adam, but I certainly don't think just sending an investigator solves it. It takes some of the high crime off the street, but it doesn't solve the issue, like you mentioned.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the fact that so many illegals are taking the lower wage jobs, and between that and the welfare, it creates a very tough situation. I mean, you just don't have the situations where you have it's not easy to be a lower middle class but honest working person. It's not as easy anymore as it used to be, I suppose.
Very true. And you mentioned illegals too. And, Kate's law passes the House with flying colors after all of this time, people trying to attach things to this beautiful bill, which stands for our sovereignty, right? Now it's going to hit the Senate, and I don't have a heck of a lot of faith in Mitch McConnell, but my point is that they're going to try to add things to this that doesn't make sense. And I really think it should pass with flying colors and not just represent Kate Steinle and her family, but I mean in general, many families have died due to illegal immigration and over 1.3 million crimes in the last 5 years, total crimes. That's a lot of crimes we wouldn't have to incarcerate.
Many drunk drivers in particular. What does Kate's law do? Remind people.
Basically, Kate's law is another way of saying that if you commit a crime and are here illegally, usually you get deported back, and in the old days, you were what's called catch and release. But if you cross back over the border again and commit that crime, you have a minimum mandatory sentence of 5 years. The next step, if you do it again, or this last person did it 5 times, it goes up by 5 years apiece each at that moment. So it's a beginning, but it's something that should have been on the books a long time ago.
It disincentivizes. Anything else from the last few days that people need to know about?
Yeah, Greta Van Susteren fired from MSNBC for being pro-Trump. She was there 6.5 months.
What happened exactly there? And didn't they know what they were getting?
Everyone knows what they get with Greta. She's fair. She's truthfully balanced in the way she speaks, and she's great with the law. But because of her stance and her comments, I guess they got sick of it. They didn't want anything to do with it, I guess, at that channel. And I believe now, Adam, she's worked for all 3 major cable networks
good point.
In her career, right?
Hey, you can sign her up for your new network.
There you go. And last one that I think is really important, Adam, is that the states are not handing over their voter information. 27 plus states won't. Some will give partial. That tells you the biggest problem of all. They said there were over 10,112-year-olds on our voter registration. That's a fact. And the truth is there's not even 1,112-year-olds. And on top of that, as you know, what else besides the vote? Oh, yeah. On top of that,
I will point out for people, people know I'm a big Herman Wouk fan. CBS just did a new story, a new interview with 102-year-old Herman Wouk, who's still going, and but that's 10 years younger than 112, which you were just talking about. But I just wanted to put a pitch out there so people
absolutely.
See that's about one of my favorite authors.
It doesn't. Oh, interesting. Does that bother you that they won't even hand over the data? There's an amendment. I believe it's the 10th Amendment. Correct me if I'm out there, but that says that the states do not have to share this information, even though it's a federal vote. So we need to figure out why they won't hand them over and make sure that we solve this issue of fingerprint, eye scan, and ID or some sort to make sure our vote is the most important thing we all do as a country.
If I know President Trump, though, this will only make him push more effort into counteracting the huge voter fraud problem. I'm sure his reaction is, oh, you want to go there? Okay, we'll see what we can do. He can always prosecute people, so we'll see. That's a good thing that you brought up that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Hopefully we have more movement on that the next time we chat. So thank you very much. That's basically the news in a quick nutshell for you.
Appreciate it. Mike Closer, great having you on. Just remind people how to follow you again.
Absolutely. You can find me at The Best Closer on Facebook and on Twitter, and catch my show 6 a.m. weekdays, The Best Closer, from 6 until 7:30 in the morning East Coast time. Thanks for having me on again, Adam.
Thanks, Mike.